Ever feel like you're just another face in the office crowd? What if I told you there are 4 strategies that can skyrocket your visibility and make you the go-to person at your workplace? Stick around because these game-changing tips could very well transform your career. Hola amigos, I'm Diego, a software engineer working in London. If you're new here, you're interested in making your relationship with time and technology much healthier, much more productive, make sure to join the team and hit that subscribe button. So let's get into it. The first thing I would recommend to truly boost your performance in the workplace would be to focus on delegating and mentoring. Let's talk about delegating first. Delegating can be as much an art as it is a science, but if you can effectively learn how to delegate, this will 10x your performance in your career. And I think learning how to delegate properly is especially significant for people who are early on in their careers, starting a new job, or just getting into the workplace. To be able to delegate effectively, I would highly recommend you use a productivity framework called the Eisenhower Matrix. This framework was created by the President Dwight D. Eisenhower to be able to manage all his presidential responsibilities and all his incoming tasks. And this matrix separates each task you receive into 4 separate quadrants based on their urgency and their importance. And depending on which quadrant each task lands in, you can be able to know what exactly to do with it, what the next steps are. So here's what you should do with each quadrant. First, if the task is urgent and important, do it, add it to your task list. Second, if the task is not urgent but still important, schedule it to do it at a later date. Third, if the task is not important but still urgent, delegate. This is where the delegation step comes in. And finally, if the task is neither important nor urgent, just eliminate it. Here are the 4 steps to be able to properly delegate. First, print out the Eisenhower Matrix and stick it somewhere visible. So when you receive a task that must get done but doesn't require a specific skill set, you know that you have to delegate it. Number 2, have a list of your colleagues and their specific skill sets so you know whom to delegate to. Number 3, whenever a task arrives, make sure you spend just a few seconds initially categorizing it into one of the 4 different quadrants. Finally, number 4, whenever a task falls in the delegate category, make sure you delegate it as soon as possible and perhaps have a template within your email or your Slack messaging app ready for that task to be delegated. So you can just plug and play and not have to write an email or a message from scratch every single time. And also make sure that the tasks that are not important and not urgent, you do eliminate them, so be ruthless about it, because that just clogs up your entire system and makes it very difficult to navigate. Now on to mentoring. Mentoring is one of the great ways to build a name for yourself within your company, but also to learn as much as you can from those who are more advanced in their careers. So seek out those opportunities for mentoring other people, perhaps run a workshop, run one-on-one sessions with younger interns who are starting their careers and may need some support. Make company-wide presentations on specific topics that you are quite well versed in and feel that you can teach other people your knowledge and your expertise. This can be very useful because not only will you become a go-to person within your company for that specific skill set, but you will also build great relationships with the people you are mentoring, and you will always learn from the people you are mentoring. Being able to teach something successfully allows you to deepen your understanding of that specific topic, and again, just build those great relationships. I would also recommend you look for mentors within your company as well. And in today's hybrid remote environment, it's becoming more difficult to have that one-on-one personal interaction with other people in your company, but make sure you schedule it. If it's not every month, every couple of months, a meeting with someone who is higher up, not only a one-on-one just to get kind of superficial feedback, but sessions where you can really ask deep questions, ask important questions, and come prepared, because those sessions can be invaluable. People who've already been there, who've already walked that mile, can be an incredibly valuable resource so that you learn, and not only learn, but again, build those relationships and understand how you can boost your trajectory within your company in a much more effective manner. Building a better to-do list is crucial to being able to complete tasks successfully and effectively. I spent years at work building terrible to-do lists that would either be too abstract, too complicated, too long, and not actionable enough. And this really hurt my performance and my capabilities at work. So the first thing I would recommend is to start creating that to-do list the day before. If it's Monday, set some time aside at the end of the day to plan the next day and start building a basic skeleton, a basic to-do list. Now the question, how many items should I have in my to-do list? Well, the pros recommend to have between 5 and 9 items to keep things manageable and keep things effective. This comes from psychological studies that claim that the number 7 seems to be a sort of magical number. It's a number that has been used by religion, science, philosophy throughout history for its stability and its harmony. And so for to-do lists, you have the 7 plus or minus 2 framework, which establishes that you should have between 5 or 9 items within your to-do list. I personally use the 1-3-5 rule for my to-do lists, which states that you should should have one big ticket item for that day, then 3 medium-sized items, and then 5 smaller items that if you can get to them, it would be great, but they're kind of optional. This one has worked wonders for me, and I would highly recommend you use it. And now, what is the best way to craft a specific item within your to-do list? So it has to be short, concise, and incredibly actionable. If the item on the to-do list says complete project, that's a terrible task. So break that project down into specific steps. What exactly do you have to do for research? Which people do you need to get a hold of within your team? What meetings do you have to run? What reports do you have to create? Be very specific and very actionable. And in terms of prioritizing your to-do list, I would keep it as simple as possible. Don't bother with tags or very complicated and fancy systems where you prioritize based on time and delivery and deadline. I would just simply prioritize my task list from top to bottom. So number 1, the top thing I have to get done right at the top of the to-do list, and the importance level drops as you go down your list. So that way it's easy, it's very visual, and you know that once you tackle the first item, the next item in terms of importance is right there, and you know exactly in which order you need to complete things. And just spend a few minutes at the beginning of the day or the evening before trying to prioritize the to-do list as best as you can, but don't worry too much about it. I would also recommend that you don't look at your to-do list all the time and whilst you're working on a task. Only look at your to-do list when you finish a specific item and you want to know the next item in your list. And the last thing I would recommend is that you buy a physical to-do list system. I personally bought this one from Cali, very, very beautifully made, a wooden to-do list system where you can write your tasks here on this sheet and then just have them here on your desk. Beautiful system, very simple. And for people who like analog, it's wonderful. And the satisfaction of being able to tick off things manually with a pen is such a beautiful feeling. It really inspires you to get more things done. And the beauty about it being analog is that you always have it there for reference and you don't have to dig through your apps to try and find your digital to-do list. Something you really have to stop doing is multitasking. You have to become a non-multitasking extremist within your work because your career may very well depend on it. Research again and again has proven that multitasking is not effective at all, and that your brain is only able to focus on one thing at a time, that switching between tasks and switching your focus can be really detrimental to your performance. There's a study that shows if your brain changes focus from one activity to another, the cost of switching back to that first activity is around 23 minutes. That's time you do not have to waste. So make sure you stop multitasking, focus on doing deep work on difficult things, no distractions, preferably no music, no checking email at the same time, just focusing on those specific tasks one at a time, then finishing them one at a time, going through your to-do list one at a time, and not dividing yourself between things because this can wreak havoc in terms of your performance and your ability to advance in your career. In fact, a 2021 study by the Wusai Neurosciences Institute at Stanford University found that multitasking can interfere with work and memory, cause students to do worse in school, and could possibly even create long-term memory problems. So multitasking is a big no. Become a non-multitasking extremist. The last thing I would recommend is to change your working location relatively often during the workday. I have found that this is an incredible way to reinvigorate yourself, refresh yourself, take a short break between one location and the next, and be able to boost your productivity, especially in those moments when you're feeling a bit of a slump. So for example, after lunch, most of us get a bit of that afternoon 3 p.m. slump. If you can change your working location, move from where you were initially to a separate location, maybe perhaps next to a window, maybe even benefit from the sunlight hitting your face, that can be truly, truly transformative in terms of your productivity. A study by the University College London found that it is a well-known fact among scientists that the midbrain region of the brain regulates our levels of motivation and our ability to predict rewards by releasing dopamine. This dopamine is released in the frontal and temporal regions of the brain. Now that seems all kind of sciencey, but stick with me here. We have now shown, study says, that novelty activates this brain area. So we believe that experiencing novelty might in itself have an impact on our dopamine levels. So when you experience novelty, just a simple fact of moving from one location in your office to another location, that can truly change your motivation level, your dopamine levels, and reset your focus a little bit, reset your productivity, and allow you to perform more sustainably and more continuously throughout the workday. So take advantage of this, especially in today's age of hot seats and open work environments. where you can move from one place to the next. And if you're using the Pomodoro technique, working for a set period of time and then having a bit of break in between, make sure that after a few cycles of that, you get up, stretch, have a drink of water, perhaps a quick snack, and then move on to a new location to be able to reset your focus and reset your productivity. If you're working from home, this is something that you really need to focus on. If you have a large house, move from one desk to the other. Try not work in your bedroom because you need to create that separation between your workspace and your living space. And if you have the ability to, go to a co-working space, maybe go to a cafe. Getting out of the house if you work from home is incredibly important to be able to create that separation and that novelty and that change of location factor. So make sure you take that into account, because if you test it, I am sure it will boost your productivity and motivation at work. So that's it for today, amigos. Hope you really enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, make sure you check out this video on the 4 productivity protocols that you should follow if you're feeling stuck in your job. That's a wonderful video, so make sure you check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one, amigos.